the end of the day, all the KPIs, all that stuff, it boils down to what we're really doing, which is connecting humans. We're not replacing them, we're connecting them. It's not a bunch of websites talking to each other or robots talking to each other. That stuff matters. It matters in the product. It matters in the experience. There are millions of amazing developers or designers. What makes it different when they work with you or they work with me? It's
Yep.
you or me.
Welcome to the CTRL ALT GAB podcast, where we sit down with tech founders to break down how they scale, pivot, and grow. I'm your host, Gabrielle Walthers. Let's dive in. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the CTRL ALT GAB podcast. Very happy to be joined by our lovely guest today, Shiloh Pettyjohn. Hello, Shiloh. How are you today?
Hello. Very well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. We're so excited to talk with you. I originally found Shiloh through his work with the Expanse Group, but upon chatting a little bit, we've learned that Shiloh has done many things, including being a sound engineer, touring with super cool punk bands such as The Offspring, learning a lot about Shiloh, and excited to dive into his experience and learn from him and talk about all things tech and scaling and business. Let's crack into it. I know when we chatted, you mentioned you've started several other companies, you've worked with the Expanse Group, but you also have done big career shifts. This question, although formatted to talk about founding the Expanse Group, I would like to extend it to any of the projects you have ongoing, any of the companies that you're a part of right now. Talk to us about your journey that led you to being a founder and being a leader in this space.
That's a great question. I started in tech when I was 20. I'm 50 now, so I got 30 years in the game professionally working in the space. Early on, I started in big oil, like helping, retail operations for people like Mobil and Shell, and then went off and got into all kinds of IT things. At the time, it was like pre-Windows 95. You had to make your own cables and solder things, and it was a whole different era. About 25 years ago, I founded an agency that focused primarily on e-commerce and custom apps. Like, this is before apps, but we built things like you wanted a social media platform like Facebook or MySpace at the time. We could build that. Gradually, more and more e-commerce came a thing. More and more the world was running on it. Customers were adopting it, young, old, they are all getting on board and understanding the value of being able to buy online and get something delivered to your house, right? For the better part of the last, let's say 20 years, it's been almost entirely e-commerce related. And that was great. I loved it. I love helping Main Street businesses, brick and mortar businesses, be able to come to the internet and offer their products and compete against the bigger giants, the Amazons and Walmarts. But about a year ago, I decided, you know what? It felt a little bit procedural. My life in general became, this is going to be a little philosophical here, right?
Love it, yeah.
It became a little bit like laying bricks. And while I was good at it and I had a good team and everyone was happy, we're producing quality stuff, I wanted to do something new. I sold my agency and they're great. They're still running, doing awesome work, and opened up Expanse Group with the intention of, doing some consulting and doing some builds and working with newer technologies and things that were a little bit more on the edge, but also so that I could partner with professionals in verticals that were experts in their field and to be able to bring solutions that needed to be solved that these experts identified as problems and to partner with them so I could build something that had a little bit more life than just laying the bricks. I was interested in doing all kinds of things. We started a family coffee company. It's called Possibility Coffee. Super cool. Quality from little farms all around the world, not these mega coffee plantations. Did that with my family, my wife, my daughter, just us, right? Started another business with some guys in real estate investment that have real particular unusual problems that are not solved by some off-the-shelf software. So we're going into a beta on that. So with Expanse Group, basically the concept, to come full circle, Expanse Group was designed just at that, just in its name, so that I could expand as an individual and that I could help others expand and reach what they were trying to accomplish. And to use all the stuff that I've learned over the last, absurd amount of time towards that goal, and to keep it interesting and fresh and different and explore like, what could be, which is,
Mhm.
you know, that's the stuff,
Mhm.
it's not an email that you just sent to somebody. It's forwarding that goal, that great exploration. Where can we go with this?
I think that curiosity, that a lot of founders have, I can tell that you that direction. You're like, "This is, for lack of a better word, I know it's much more philosophical than that, but boring. We're doing the same thing. We're not really solving the problems that we think we're solving at the level we want. Let's go into a space where we can actually do that and make a difference for these companies." The coffee company you mentioned, is that a project that you and your family got over through Expanse Group that you worked with this company?
No, no, no. Purely a family business. My daughter wrote a bunch of the copy. My wife's an artist, so she drew the labels. I did all the nerdy stuff and
So
designed the
cool.
site. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It's not my mainline business, but we all love coffee. And each of us, my daughter's an actress, my wife is an artist, and then I'm a nerd. So we all have inspiration and points of creativity that come out of what we do in life for ourselves. And a lot of times that was around coffee. We were like, this would be fun. Let's start something. And
Cool.
it's great.
That's really fun. What a cool deviation. You're like, "This
Yeah.
is gonna be fun and creative and bring the family together."
Yeah,
Also,
yeah, it
who
was
doesn't like
neat.
coffee?
It was
Coffee's the
neat.
reason we're all here today, truly. I believe that. I wouldn't
100%.
be here without coffee. I would be in my bed. Okay, so we've already touched on this next piece a little bit, just based on, the general evolution of your career. I want you to speak a little more pointedly towards, your vision when you started, Expanse Group versus how your vision today. It sounds like based on, the work you were doing pre-Expanse Group, there was a big shift, both in what you were doing and your mentality. I'm curious if there's been not an even equivalent shift, but a significant shift since you've been running the Expanse Group.
Yeah, 100% shift. So yes, you're not wrong. When you're running an agency, you have all of the elements that have to be done. You got the books, you got to pay people, you got to sell enough jobs, you got to make sure the margins are good, you got to do all the stuff. With Expanse Group, while that is a factor, my goal with it was to, in a more lean and hyper focused for the specific project, to build basically solutions that solve those problems for the customers, but also solve it for myself. Like, you build a good size agency and you can make great money, you can live a good life, but same time you can build it in a manner that's a bit of a golden cage that you put yourself in. What I wanted to do, sort of philosophically, was to have the freedoms to choose the kinds of things that interested me, that I knew would be of benefit to the rest of the people that I'm working with, the world around me. So the vision was essentially not just um, you know, do the same thing over and over again. Not that I was doing that, but it can become rote. It can become like, okay, good, we're going to use this and we're going to do this system and, we're going to do it this way. And this is our process. And that's fine. Totally fine. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. But for me, as like a human, I wanted to have something that I could explore, and go, okay, you know what? Let's do this time. It's actually, weirdly enough, very similar to filmmaking. You want to make some, deep French thing. It's black and white and everybody's smoking and sweating and it's always raining and it's moody. You're going to hire very particular people to pull that off. Not just the actors, but the people who run the cameras, the editors, the guys that score the music, lighting people, directors, all of it. I wanted to be able to have that kind of experience where I could build this French thing for somebody and I could also build this other fun Mickey Mouse thing for somebody.
Mhm.
I wanted to be able to apply the design and build a team around that project so that I could provide the design, the marketing, the intelligence, the tech, the back end, the integrations, all the stuff that one would do in those kinds of projects to create that. That's the fundamental shift in sort of goal with it. Here's another thing I got involved with some super smart fellas that were working in AI. It's a company called Capsule. I got working with them and they're doing insane things to help businesses lower their cost of customer acquisition. Insane. It's absolutely bonkers. And it's very helpful to an organization like mine that often gets into advertising. They're reducing our costs on advertising for a number of my customers, upwards of like 40 and sometimes quite a lot more. They're using super intelligent tech, super interesting, super new, and they're applying it to the organizations that would benefit from it. That's right in line with what I want to do. Think outside the box. I hate that saying, but that's what we're doing, right? How can we do something different? Better, more exciting, more interesting.
Mm-hmm. With this other company, is there a partnership type situation there, or do you guys have that bilateral agreement and approach customers with dual solutions that way, or is it a less formalized relationship there?
No, it's quite formal. I'm heading up essentially their strategic development. It's a very deep partnership. And utilizing it for my own, introducing it to other agencies that need help on that space that struggle with. I have a glass ceiling. I can't spend more than $2,000 in ads per day for this customer without it losing all value. The
Mm.
ROI just drops to the floor and the ROI is just terrible. And I don't know what to do because Google or Facebook just came up with a new rule that they don't express. I'm working with these guys quite a lot on the strategy, on the rollout, and I'm utilizing it for my own customers' benefits.
Yeah, so for your own advertising and for any folks that work with you for their custom solutions. I'm I'm curious about how you utilize strategic partnerships.
I partner a lot with agencies that basically have great ideas, artists, they're like creators, and they have a lot of skill in that space, but need deep technical help from a strategic partnership perspective. And I find it interesting from a creative perspective to go like, all right, how can we solve all of these things that they're trying to accomplish? And they've accomplished something with this platform. Now we need to move it into something completely different, and we need to refactor the thinking of how this is going to work and how many efficiencies can we create for these guys? How can we make it so that their employees aren't like dead at the end of the day because they've just been clicking things with their mouse all day long? How can we make it less brutal? It's always been effective to me to partner with people that are like-minded, that are good at what they do, that I can bring value to, and that we can have an honest unilateral relationship where I can say, hey, you're great at doing the French film thing. I really need some help with that. Can you help me with this? And it just works. I
Yeah.
actually don't do advertising personally for my own, consulting work. I could use Capsule for that, but over the last, 25, a little longer, honestly, it's all been word of mouth.
Hmm. Yeah.
That's it, which is great by me.
I'm sure you have amazing case studies and testimonies. That's the most effective thing in getting that traction. So when did Expanse Group start formally?
June of last year, June of
Wow.
2024.
Nice. Okay. Young.
Very.
In the past year, what has growth looked like and what can you attribute that to most pointedly? It's going to be a culmination of everything that you've been able to do, but what do you think has been your secret sauce in the year that you've been in operation?
Honestly, a lot of it is my network of people that know me and know what I can do as far as a service. A lot of that that's true of anything. You're going to start I don't know, car wash business. People know you. They go, oh yeah, come over, wash my car. It's great. There's quite a lot of that, right?
Mhm.
I would say as far as the actual growth, it's actually been focusing on delivering product, and obviously starts with one, but delivering product that is exceptional for that client. It's very easy to get into the weeds on what a product is and what a project is supposed to be. It's easy to start arguing about scope creep. It's easy to wrestle with how can I get this done faster so I can make enough money to solve the problem. This goes back to the shift also. What I've focused on is how can I make the best possible product that I can make with the people that I have and, my own hands in a lot of cases. How can I be involved and how can I basically take more responsibility for what I'm building? What I found is that the more I do that, the more business comes in. Whether it's because of referral, whether it's because you get out there,
Yeah.
the universe is saying, good
Good
job,
job.
whatever it is. But the point is that by saying, how can I own this? How can I make this better? How can I treat this like this is my own business, even though it's yours? I said I'd build it this way, but actually, I'm going to go a little bit further. I'm going to give you this, this, and this other thing. Because you know what? Honestly, if I just think about it, it's not that much different. And it gives you like 5 times a better product, right? One for one, every customer is so thankful, right? One for one, those customers say, Shiloh, you should talk to my cousin, right? Or my good friend. And one for one, it leads to similar kinds of projects that bring me enjoyment and is a good product for the customer. It's a win-win kind of thing. The product is everything. and conveying what the product is, conveying how you go about that, conveying what your general sort of, moral, code is on the topic. Maybe morals is a little too strong, but you get the idea.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
who are you?
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah, there is that level of depth, though. I think people are afraid to talk about that, but things like headspace and mindset and and integrity and work ethic all go into what I think makes a good person, what makes a successful company, because people can tell and the universe knows. No, I'm just kidding. But maybe
Does.
it does.
It
Maybe it
does.
does. I think it does, at least. And those things matter. I've found like we've recorded several of these podcast episodes and we've conducted white papers before. Something that very few people speak to, especially in the tech industry, is the soft piece, the personal piece, and the parts of a founder that aren't related to their tech business and the impact those things have on hitting your KPIs and onboarding new clients and having a full pipeline and all that's connected. And it's hard to formalize that connection. So I think a lot of people just ignore it.
You're so right. Because at the end of the day, all the KPIs, all that stuff, it boils down to what we're really doing, which is connecting humans.
Mhm.
We're not replacing them, we're connecting them. It's not a bunch of websites talking to each other or robots talking to each other, as you said earlier, which is very funny. That stuff matters. It matters in the product, it matters in the experience. There are millions of amazing developers or designers or people, right? What makes it different when they work with you or
Mhm.
they work with me?
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
you or me. That's what it is.
There's a lot to be said for those unspoken things that go into decision making, but since they're unspoken, they're not spoke about.
That's right. You also know immediately if it's not a good fit. If you follow
Totally.
that, like, who are we? What are we doing together?
Mhm.
What's this? What's the goal? Where do you want to go? What do you want to do? What's the values of this whole thing? And you sort of immediately see, is this an ideal fit? Is this customer a good customer? Should I
Mhm.
not do this project? And
Mhm.
as somebody who's experienced going for the money, or I can build it, or who cares, I'm just going to do it over the years I've been doing it, those are always the one that bite you, that you don't sleep well, there's an upset, it's always
Feel
where,
bad. Yeah.
yeah,
You just feel bad. Yeah.
yeah. And then the customer doesn't feel good either because they're not getting what they want. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a problem. So
Yeah.
it's not all about me. It kind of sounds like that from the beginning of this, but that's not the point at all. You have to be happy and they need to be happy. And
Totally. The shift you mentioned about wanting to go into the creative custom space helps because then you're fully equipped to fully solve and support the issue. You can be like, I'm showing up as a person fully ready, fully equipped to support you to solve this problem and tackle this project, as opposed to the person feels ready to help you with this, but I'm only equipped to do these three things. So if your problem cannot be solved by these three things, then we're leaving this half done.
that's right.
So it's all connected,
That's
all
right.
of it.
That's right. It's 100% correct. I
Mhm.
randomly got this nonprofit project not too long ago, actually. And it was for a museum, small museum here in California. I love them. I love anything to do with the arts, anything that forwards the arts, makes it available to people. And the project sort of led down this path where it wasn't just building a site for their gift shop, which is all it was, really. It led to creating a solution to solve their memberships. They were paying exorbitant amounts of money for membership management type solutions for the museum members. They had clunky solutions for donations. Their point of sale was a mess. They had no way to smoothly handle the customers that were standing in front of them, right? Their ticketing system for managing tickets. All of a sudden, this simple project organically evolved into, why don't we take responsibility for all of these things, right? And let's work out a way that you can afford it and I can do it and we'll make something great. There's just something so awesome when you find, a customer that isn't going to take you for a ride and try to, milk you for everything you're worth, right?
Mhm.
But is willing to like explore the possibilities. How can
Mhm.
we get there? And having
Mhm.
that openness, it's wonderful. And it
Yeah.
was a delightful project. It was so fun. And now I'm working on a
Mhm.
whole nother thing for them. And so it's very cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that comments on that exploratory nature of the freedom that you've allowed yourself to have. You can go into these projects that start as a website and evolve into this overhaul of all of their, systems and do something really cool for companies that really deserve it. With how young Expanse Group is, I'm curious what your team looks like.
It's very flexible. I have a core of about 5 guys that work with me very consistently, but the approach I take is that sort of film production approach. I hire the correct director, the correct, gaffer, the correct cinematographer for the project. And that's an opportunity to learn, an opportunity to produce new and completely distinct products, right? My team is about that size pretty consistently, but I bring in the guys that I need, just like you would in producing a film.
Yeah, you could expand and contract as needed and
Yeah,
scale that way.
yeah.
We've touched on what's been going really well and what you've done that's warranted success. I'm curious to talk about the other side of that coin, which is in the past year, what have been the growth challenges that have stuck out for you, and how have you tackled them, and how do you continue to tackle them looking to the future?
For me, because I'm looking towards things that are bleeding edge in a lot of cases, or new ideas, or don't exist, right? Having the discipline to take the time to really architect and define what it is that I'm building and how I'm going to go about it. What are the technical choices? How much debt do I introduce by making this choice versus this choice? How do I predict what effects I'm going to create on myself and on the customer in 6 months, right? Or a year, right? And that's shift, because when you come from a background of building similar systems, right, where you're bolting on minor changes, or, you build Shopify sites, love Shopify, it's amazing, right? But it is a system that holds in a particular idea. One of the areas and the biggest challenges as far as like growth and maintaining my own sanity is really thinking it through, both the product now, but also the product in 6 months, in a year, or whatever it is it's appropriate for the thing that I'm building. Again, it always comes back to this product. It's literally everything. It's
You're embedding that foresight into the product right at the onset of creating it. So you're not finding yourself 3 years down the line and the customer comes to you going, well, we found all of these problems, or now we're in such a different place. We'd like to scale up.
it's disciplined, because as a tech guy, it's fun to go, this is how we could do this. And then you don't think about 10 steps down. And then you go, wow, I just painted myself into a corner, something awful.
It's very cool how it all gets wrapped up in what is most important to you. And I think what makes you stand out is that commitment to the product. The cool theme that's emerging here is that we're seeing how all of the little spindles come together.
Gee, it's
It
not
is, I
bad.
think.
You're not wrong. How many times have you been the effect of your own causation? Either in interpersonal relationships, I shouldn't have said that to that person. Now they're mad at me, and
Yeah.
I did that,
Yeah.
right? But technically, it shows up all the time.
Thinking those thoughts at the right time so that you're not making
Yeah,
more work for yourself down the road. And I think
yeah.
that's where your experience comes in. You're like, I've been doing this for so long. I know what I need to think about at this stage, and that usually only show up at this stage. But if you think about them here, when you get there, it's not even going to be a problem.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And it affects all the choices. And it also is the creative part. For
Mm.
me, it's the creative part. How can I make it for what we need now? And then how can I make it for what we need in the future?
Sure. Anticipating that need. It makes total sense now hearing you speak about these things. You're like, listen, we've been able to do pretty well word of mouth wise because we have this immense authority built based on the quality of our solutions and the experience of our customers. When you do things that well right out the gate, a lot of the work is done for you, which is lovely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's this extra little line, and it's actually more valuable than the money, is, how do you feel about what you're doing in life? We're getting super philosophical here,
So
but
yeah,
like,
this is actually a philosophy podcast.
this is a philosophy podcast. So we're philosophizing, but it's true. Does this make you happy?
Hmm.
Not on a good day, a bad day kind of thing, but generally speaking, is there a net positive? Does it make your customers happy? If
Hmm.
not, you have to change something.
Yeah.
Otherwise you won't last.
If their systems work beautifully, but they're so mad and you left a bad taste in their mouth,
Yeah.
then that doesn't really matter because they're not coming back to you regardless.
You
Yeah.
go eat at a fancy restaurant, you get a steak. The steak's amazing. But the person who brought you the steak was an abject beep, right? It doesn't matter how good the
Doesn't
steak
matter.
was.
Yeah.
You're like, that person's
And to flip that analogy on its side, as a consumer who is not an entrepreneur, who doesn't own a restaurant, doesn't own a tech company, if I go into a restaurant and I have the worst steak of my life, but my server is amazing and we have the best time and it's so fun and the atmosphere is awesome, I will go back and I will eat that bad steak a second time. I don't care.
1,000%.
Yeah, I eat bad steak alone in my house. At least I get to have fun with this nice lady that's filling up my water, and vice versa. There's almost more power in the human connection point, and a lot can fly under the radar if you're showing up and you're a good person and you're ready to connect. You know what I mean? Now,
You are
that's
100% correct.
that's probably not the lesson to take away, like be
No,
crap at your job and then be a
it's
good person.
huge.
But
People are paying good money for technology. So
yeah,
why not like make it a good experience too?
exactly. Yeah, totally. That's another piece I feel doesn't get the attention it deserves, especially when talking to founders. You folks wear so many hats that it's hard to wear the person hat sometimes, right? And people forget that they're probably supposed to be a person first and a engineer or a CEO second. You know what I mean? I feel like that often takes the forefront to the detriment of the person ultimately.
100%.
Okay, I'm curious, having a smaller team, being such a young company, looking to the future, is there something on your plate right now that you're like, I would love to not have to do this? And what needs to happen in order for that to come off your plate?
It's funny is the short answer, and this is slightly embarrassing, it's no, honestly. I am all about like delegation is an important factor of being a founder, being an executive of any type. You have to be able to delegate and to provide clear instructions and the patience to let the person fail and take it on or
Mhm.
but I'm also a big fan of automation. A lot of the things that go on in my business that would be annoying have been addressed very early on. I didn't say this, but I've also adopted a bit of a less is more approach on both the number of customers and projects that I decide to take on, as well as the kind of administrative overhead that I will put
Mm.
on myself.
Mhm.
It's a very easy activity to be like, oh, yeah, I need this and I need this other thing and I need this CRM and then it connects with this thing through this other thing. And there's a Zapier and it fires off this thing and then it's in Slack. And pretty soon you've got so many things. And I looked at that when I first started, actually spent a few days as I was establishing the business and looking at how I wanted to structure it and what I wanted to do for a week or 10 days or something. I was thinking about it and I was like, wow, do I really need that? No. Well, I could do it this way. Okay. And then all of a sudden, my technical debt, internal technical debt, and the amount of systems and the backups, and what if we have somebody who does something, and all
Mhm.
of that became this tiny little thing.
Mhm.
It took that plus the idea that I wanted to be more responsible, and anybody that's working with me, I'm trying to teach that. Like, how
Mhm.
can you be more responsible for more stuff, more areas? How can you be responsible for the other guy and his life and everything that's going on there? You can't. But how can you consider and think that way? How can I be the good waiter that brought that steak and made your day better, right? Not just
Mhm.
brought you the steak and slammed down a cup of coffee and said,
Yeah.
have a good day.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
taking responsibility for that. It boils down to all the little things like client communication. How quickly does an invoice get to somebody? How easy is it for them to pay? Taking and shrinking what that boils down to as
Mhm.
far as functional components and using simple systems that achieve the goals that you're setting out to have, that you've set for yourself, that can be automated in a lot of ways. That the dumb stuff that doesn't require communication is just handled and everybody knows it's handled, including the customer. And that just leaves more time to have the good conversations. So it's not a lot. I've intentionally kept it very minimal.
Yeah, and I think you have the benefit of experience when you came into starting this. You're like, I already know what I don't want to do. So we're
Yeah,
just gonna right out the gate not do that. So there's nothing to cut out later. Yeah.
it's
And
100%
that's a
right.
gift because the amount of people that get years down the line and then they go, I really don't want to do this, but I formulated the whole structure. My whole org chart hinges on me doing this one thing that I hate, and that sucks. So not
100%.
building it on that means that you don't have to cut that out later down the line when it's harder.
Hey, you just avoid the whole thing. It's just like, wow, that's not ideal. So I'm not going to bake it
So
into
I'm
my
not gonna
business.
do it. Yeah. Yeah. It's almost like it's that easy. Truly. Looking more to the future and talking about what growth goals you have in your mind for next year, next 3 to 5 years, 10 years, whatever that time frame looks like. What are you trying to achieve and what's your game plan for doing that? And if it is just do what you're doing, awesome. But if there's something that you're like, we'd really like to tack this on to achieve this in the next couple years, I'm curious what that looks like.
My big goals right now, I have about probably 80% of my revenue comes from consulting, builds. I have a project. It hasn't moved. I need to figure out why. Can you help me debug it? I have a team. They just need some leadership. That kind of thing. It's about 80% of my revenue. The rest comes from the projects where I've partnered, because we are young and we're just starting to come to market with some of these things, where I have a stake in the business, the real estate business, for example. I have an equity stake in that business. I'm building it so that it can produce and make money. My goals right now are to, in the next 2 years, I want to basically have that flipped, where my consulting business, the things that I'm building for just one-off businesses, are the things that I truly enjoy, and I don't really care about the revenue. It's just because I like to do it. If I could just hang out and build sites for museums or you know, stuff like that, that would delight me, right?
Mhm.
And have the rest of the revenue coming from these other areas. And so I see that there's quite a lot of potential expansion in some of the things I'm doing with AI, Capsule. That whole area is an amazing product and an amazing effect on the customers, doing things in that space. And there's a few others that I'm at the early stages of development on that are going to take a little time to build out and expand. But that's my primary goal, so that I'm focused on the projects that I'm interested in, just because I find joy in it, and that the revenue of the business is built on larger, where we have an equity in it.
Mm-hmm. For sure. That seems like a good flip. And that sounds
Yeah,
like a good way to set up your life.
yeah.
Yeah, I know that you, far beyond Expanse Group, there's all sorts of other stuff and you touched briefly on your real estate company and all that. So are there any other business ventures, products, anything that you're trying to bring to market now that you can talk about that
Yeah.
you're also focusing on, either off the side of your desk or on a separate desk or on half of your current desk?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm looking at a whiteboard that's in front of me right now. I probably have 3 or 4 projects that are simmering. I can't really say what they are. One is in the insurance space, which is kind of interesting. I could say
Wait.
that. Yeah, that's pretty neat. Another is in uh, film development, not film as in Polaroid, video production is probably a better way to say,
Mm-hmm.
to address some things in that space and simplify that, and a few things like that. A
Okay.
couple things cooking.
For sure. We'll have to have you back in a year and
Oh,
see
I'd love that.
what has jumped out of the pot and is fully ready to be served.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Right now we're marinating.
Yeah, for sure. We're in the marination stage. Very cool. Well, very much looking forward to seeing what else comes out of your brain and what other projects you get underway here, um because you are very cool.
Well, thank you. I think
Doing
you're
a lot of
pretty
cool
cool too.
stuff.
You're pretty cool too.
You know what? I'll accept that. Thank
You
you.
should.
I
You
appreciate
should.
it.
Take it.
That's awesome. Well, we covered a lot today, and I'm really happy with the depth that you got. And I like that we were able to touch on the more philosophic human points of being a founder, being in the tech space, being in a place where the robots roam, and having that need for human connection even more than before. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you so much. Thank you for
Awesome.
having me. I will
Yeah,
just
yeah.
say, any founders, any people looking to start up and get into the tech space, take the time to really evaluate what is important to you and what value you're going to provide your customers. Think it through. If it, you know, uh, smells like a fish and quacks like a duck, it's a duckfish. You name it for what it is. That's a weird saying, but you have to call it for what it is. If it smells funny, don't eat it.
That's a good lesson to live by in all areas,
It's
truly.
true. It's easy to be reasonable about those things
Hmm.
with yourself and to rationalize things. When it's wrong, it's wrong, and it's wrong. And so just work that out for yourself so that it isn't. It's as simple
Simple as
as that.
that. That's great. Well, thank you so much, Shiloh, for joining us today. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And we will catch you on the next one. Thank you for listening to the CTRL ALT GAB podcast. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you on the next one.